Hello and welcome. In this video I would like to talk about sequences. By definition, a sequence is a short phrase of notes that repeats for a very long time. And I'm using sequences a lot in my music, and it's always a challenge that these sequences don't go on your nerves or don't sound boring if you repeat them for a very long time. I think that I developed a few techniques that make this happen so that a sequence keeps to be dynamic and interesting and modulates over a long period of time. And in this video I would like to share a few of these techniques with you. I created a Midi channel from which I can trigger the Moog Sub-37 synthesizer over there. And I could trigger it from a Midi controller, or I could create a clip where I put some notes, or use some interesting plugin like Stepic from Devicemeister. It's a guy from Germany who programmed this Max for Live patch. It's also available as a VST version, so you can pick whatever you like depending on if you're on Ableton or another DAW. The design of this plugin is quite straightforward. You can enter some notes in the upper row, enter some octave switches here, and change the duration and velocity and some other features in this lower row. So when you hit play, you see how the sequencer goes through the notes that you entered. So let's add some notes and create a short sequence. Maybe 8 notes. Of course, this is nothing special and could easily be done with a Midi clip or any other sequencer that you know. But with Stepic, it's possible to add some interesting automation and randomization features that I would like to show you now. In the second row, you see some octave switches. If you put them to a positive or negative value, the step will be transposed up or down by 1 or 2 octaves. And when you hit the dice button, something very interesting happens. Each time a randomization function decides if the note is played on the original pitch or higher or lower. You can narrow this down in the settings. I don't like the really deep notes, so because my sequence is already quite low. So I'm going for the randomization range from 0, which is the original pitch, to, let's say, 1 octave. So it's either playing the original pitch or 1 octave higher. And you will notice that you can listen to this for quite a long time and you will never have the exact same sequence twice. Then it's also possible to randomize the pitch of the notes. And if you do this for a lot of steps, the sequence will kind of lose its character and sound too random, like this. That does not sound good. And I think it's necessary to narrow down the notes that could be diced out in this randomization. And this is possible either by using the scales, but I usually don't use scale functions because well, I have scales in my head and I don't need these functions, but it's possible to narrow down the notes in this little keyboard on the top right corner. So in this case, I only want to have the C, the F, the G, and the B flat as possible random notes. So let me go back to the sequence and randomize these steps here. And because I narrowed this down to B flat, F and G, I'm only getting these 4 notes as my random notes. Then there is something that I figured out, which is not probably part of the design of this plugin, but I just decided that it would be cool to use it like this. Let me first explain to you another feature of this plugin. If I play this through without any random steps, the sequence sounds like this. And when you hit this button, you activate a function that is called active random step play order. So as you can see, the playhead is not moving from left to right, but instead it jumps randomly through the 16 steps. And you can use this function to determine the chance, to determine how often a certain random note is triggered. So if you put in 10 Cs and 2 Fs, 3 Gs and 1 B flat, which is mislabeled as A sharp here, but I'm in C minor, so it's B flat. I'm very sorry, guys. So if you now use this random step function, it means that in 10 out of 16 cases you get a C, in 2 out of 16 cases you get an F, in 3 out of 16 cases you get a G, and in 1 of 16 cases you get a B flat. I must say that I find this extremely cool because it gives me the opportunity to have a random sequence, but within very defined parameters. I can say I only want these 2 notes or these 3 notes, and I can say how often I want to have these random notes in my sequence. Again, if I go to 4-note sequence and do it like this, then I also only have these 4 notes, but they will all be playing with the same chance. So the chance that I get a C, an F and G or a B flat will be always the same with the random function here. But if I go for the 16 steps and do it like this and use the random step play order, I have something that I would call controlled chance or controlled randomness. And this is very, very cool. I actually don't know if there's any other sequencer or hardware plugin, whatever, that could do this kind of controlled randomized sequences. So much for the variation of the notes. Let's now go to the variation of the sound. With Stepic, it's possible to create different automation lanes and automate different parameters in a very interesting and musical way. When you go to the automation page, you see that you have 8 lanes of automation. At first, you need to activate one. And if you would work with a VST instrument or any virtual instrument, you could click on the map button and just move any knob or fader in Ableton, and then this parameter would be controlled by this automation lane. But in this one, I want to demonstrate how this works with Midi. So I have to click on this button here on the right to switch from the live mode to Midi mode. Most synthesizers that have Midi support the automation of parameters with Midi control messages. So what you need to do now is pick your manual and look for something that is called Midi implementation chart or something similar. And you have to look up what Midi control message number a certain parameter that you would like to automate has. In this case, I'm taking the filter cutoff, and it is using the Midi CC number 19. So I'm taking this one and enter Midi CC number 19, and let's label it cutoff filter. And now let's limit this one to 7. And voila, I have automated the cutoff frequency of the filter. And now let's take another parameter, maybe the decay of the filter envelope, and this one is on number 24. So activate lane number 2, switch it to Midi, enter number 24, filter envelope decay. Great. And as a last thing, I would like to take the resonance of the filter, which is on CC21. This sounds quite nice already, but there is a very simple and effective way to make this way more dynamic and interesting over time. And this is to change the length of the automation lanes. Now all the 3 are set to 7 steps, but if I put, let's say, the decay length to 6 steps and the filter resonance to 5 steps, I get this result. There's one very cool feature about Stepic that I like a lot. Once you set all this together with the Midi CCs, you can save this as a device. So you could go into the Midi page here and create a new device. In this case, I already did this with the Sub 37. And then you can look for the Midi CC and you can enter the parameter that you would like to have here. So how this works, let me quickly delete everything that I just did and open a completely blank copy of Stepic. And then if you go to the automation page and click on select Midi device and select the preset, you can just load the Midi CC from a drag down menu. So you never need to look up these CC numbers once you set up this Midi template. I think that's a very, very, very nice way to make a workflow easy if you have a Midi setup. I will definitely create charts for all the instruments that I have so that I don't need really to look into these manuals all the time, but instead I can just pick any of the parameters from the drag down menu and select it here. So this is it for tonight. Thanks a lot for watching and see you next time.